are now joining Children of the Watch.
That's right. It's the #1 Star Wars after show for all things Star Wars television. I'm your host, Alex Maxwell, and joining me as always is
Mac Lacey. We are here, little behind the scenes action, back to back from filming our part 1 breakdown. So we're just keeping the train rolling. But this is the Obi-Wan Kenobi part 2 breakdown, full episode, scene by scene. We're going through it all, talking about everything that happened, everything you might have missed.
What a great second episode this was too, right? Like this was incredible.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, just already having a second episode ready to go was so fun because just got to keep the excitement going this morning when I was watching, dark and early. But yeah, this was the first episode. I feel like was a nice little self-contained thing to establish all the groundwork, but then it also felt like, not just exposition, which is great. But then this is really where the story gets rolling.
And I want to just say, just based on the first 2 episodes and then just how the trajectory of the second episode was, it doesn't seem like there's going to be filler. Like that term gets thrown around a lot with television shows, but like this show seems laser focused and it knows exactly what it wants to do. And you can feel that, especially in this episode, like it's got an idea of what it is. And I really think that helps that Deborah Chow's the same director for all of the episodes. It's one director's vision the whole time.
Yeah. I definitely think that's to the show's benefit for sure. And just like, I think having 6 episodes is a great call, just being confident in the pace that we're going at to where, we're not going to have as many episodes as some of the other shows so far. I think it's great. So
I think it's great too. I can't wait to get into this scene by scene breakdown. If you're a new listener here at Children of the Watch, what we do is scene by scene breakdowns. We get into the nitty gritty of every single scene and we go over it. We discuss it. We theorize. Some might say we speculate irresponsibly.
Some might say that.
Some might say that. But we have a lot of fun doing it and just kind of give you a history of who we were. We were the Mandalorian Watch, and we did this for the first 2 seasons of The Mandalorian. But when they announced all the brand new Star Wars shows, including this one, we decided to transition our name to Children of the Watch to honor who we were, but also be able to cover everything and not just hone in on The Mandalorian. So we've already done this for 2 seasons of The Mandalorian and now the Book of Boba Fett, and we're doing it for Obi-Wan Kenobi, and I'm enjoying it so much. We're almost halfway through next Wednesday when part 3 comes out.
It's crazy that we're gonna have been watching the show for like 4 days by the point that we're halfway done.
I mean, and so much has happened. Of course, Star Wars Celebration happened where they had some announcements, Andor, the Grammar Rodeo project, all that happened. And we'll talk a little bit about that on our voicemail hotline episode. So we do these scene by scene breakdowns, but we also have our voicemail hotline episodes where you guys call in, give us your thoughts, your theories, your questions, your concerns, or maybe even something that you saw and we didn't see and you want to point that out. Absolutely. Yeah, they really are. Call in to the Hello There hotline, and that number is 205-259-6675. They're just so much fun. So make sure you call in because we love to hear from you guys and just have a great community. And it's really cool when you guys keep calling in. So maybe you don't get on the show. That's totally okay. We'll listen to it anyway. And like, hopefully eventually you can get on the show, but we get a lot of calls. So we try to even it out as best we can. But man, it's so much fun. So make sure when you do call, I didn't say this on our part 1 breakdown, but when you do call, keep it under 3 minutes and make sure you tell us who you are and where you're from. So we kind of get an idea of where you guys are calling from. Cause that's kind of cool too.
Yeah, I love when we can learn names and see them popping up again. That's how we like build relationships and build the community. So yeah. And if you're interested in our community, we do have a Patreon. If you like what we're doing and want to support us and want some more content, some bonuses, and then access to the Discord that we've got, which is really fun. You can join the Patreon. It's patreon.com/The Mandalorian Watch. If you like what we're doing and want to support us in that way.
Absolutely. Yeah, we also have our Hello There shirt on keepthewatch.com for any merch. We also have some other cool stuff too that you can check out. You can use code Hello There, all capital letters, to get free shipping in the US. And follow us on our social media at COT Watch on Twitter and Instagram. I think that just about does it.
I think that's everything that was standing between us and the part 2.
I know we got to get out of the habit of chapters.
It's an adjustment for sure. But yeah, so I think we can just jump right on in.
Let's do it. So the director once again is Deborah Chow, and I'm going to say that every single episode because she's directed every single episode, but she deserves her credit for that.
Absolutely.
And the writer for this episode is Joby Harold, and he was one of the writers on the last episode, but he also is I want to say he's the main writer for the entire series. Like he's the one that's really kind of driving it. Yeah. And so you can kind of feel it in the series or this episode too, just because it's, like I said, it's so laser focused. It knows exactly what it is and what it wants to do. And I really enjoy that.
Do you think they have some different writers who do you think that they're kind of divvying up responsibilities to where you're going to mainly focus on the Inquisitors stuff. You're going to mainly focus on Obi-Wan stuff. I wonder what if there's anything like that going on behind the scenes, but
maybe if you're listening, Joby, let us know. Call into the Hello There hotline and give us a call and let us know. Thank you.
Actually, just DM us. We'll fast track you if you're.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's do this. All right. So we intro into the show with the new opening that includes a mouse droid. Why that mouse droid is there. We will get to the bottom of this, Mac. I promise you.
We'll have some red yarn up on a cork board pretty soon to determine what that means.
I already do. You can't see it. It's just off camera, but I've got it up on my wall. What is the mouse droid? What is its secrets? What's inside? I want to know. So we see the title card at the very beginning. So we don't even do a jump cut type thing where it's a cold open. We just get the title card at the very beginning, which is
I think in the moment it's a little bit jarring just to have the Star Wars title and then the show title right back to back, but then it's out of the way and you're focused the rest of the show. It doesn't have to interrupt anything,
Exactly.
So there's a trade-off there.
Exactly. So after we see the title card, we cut to the transport ship that Obi-Wan Kenobi is on, that he got on the last episode, and they're flying into the atmosphere of Daiyu, and it lands, and in the spaceport, a hooded Obi-Wan Kenobi holds a device while looking around. Now, to kind of give you guys some background on Daiyu, this is a brand new planet that was created for the show. There's nothing that we really know about it except that it's kind of like Shanghai in the real world. It kind of gives you that sense. It is like a city planet like Coruscant, but it's a different type of city planet, right? And the aesthetic is very different than Coruscant. It's a little more underworld vibes to Daiyu than Coruscant is.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's pretty cool. I like the way that it looks.
I do too. I mean, the neon works really well. Like a big Hong Kong influence there too, I think.
Yeah.
The neon and everything. It's a way to show kind of a familiar environment, which is like a big city, but then make it feel otherworldly and Star Warsy. They did a good job of walking that line.
Exactly. So he approaches an attendant and asks for help in tracking a ship, but the man says that he's on Daiyu now. All signals in or out are blocked, which is super sketchy.
No cell service.
Super sketchy. This is not a planet you want to visit on vacation like Alderaan was. Don't go here.
Yeah. No, definitely not a tourist destination.
No, people like to keep their secrets out there. So Obi-Wan looks around and picks a direction, and then we cut to a view of the city streets of Daiyu. And like you said, it's really, really cool the way that it looks. A little bit of a Blade Runner vibe too.
Oh yeah, big Blade Runner vibe.
Yeah. So Obi-Wan watches as people fight in front of him. There's vendors, gamblers, and he says, "If I ever need a guidance master, it's now." And he's speaking to Qui-Gon. That's really cool. Like, he's just talking to him. So we've seen in the first part and now this part, he just kind of openly talking to him, almost kind of like a prayer.
Yeah, for sure. I think this is indication. We talked a little bit last time about like, has he been kind of successful in like communicating with Qui-Gon, or I think this is indication that he's waiting to hear from him still. Like,
Yeah.
you know, if you were ever gonna like speak to me like this at any point right now, please do it, you know? So yeah. I'm pumped to see how that all develops. They're definitely keeping the breadcrumb trail going for that. Like from last time, heavily implied in the recap, we were going to be focusing on that, you know. So it's looking promising in that department.
The Qui-Gon question will be answered in this show. I'm pretty confident about that.
Yeah, for sure.
So this part was crazy. Like, what a way to start the episode. So after he says that, then we hear a very familiar voice that says, "Spare any credits." And the voice asks him that. We cut to a shot of a clone trooper helmet overturned and a grungy man sitting on the ground. He holds the helmet out for change. Obi-Wan decides to get some credits out, and we see Tamara Morrison, old, bearded, and still wearing clone trooper armor under rags.
Yeah, I had to ask you. I was like, was that really Tim under all that? Like, I couldn't even tell. Like, they could have used a look-alike and then just used all that to disguise, you know?
I loved it. What a smart way to show you clones are not stormtroopers anymore. Like the Bad Batch, the animated series, that season 1 is now on Disney Plus. Season 2 is coming very soon. I think everyone should watch it. It's a great series. That series does a good job of showing the transition from clone troopers to stormtroopers. But for the people who haven't seen the Bad Batch, I think this does a good job too of kind of showing you, oh, there's an old clone trooper. And yeah, that's Boba Fett's face. That's Jango Fett's face.
Yeah.
And then so he says, "Help a veteran get a warm meal." Right. Obi-Wan stares at him for a while, probably wondering if this clone would recognize him. Number one. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting. This clone may be a former 501st member because the colors on his armor look blue to me. Maybe I didn't see that right, but it looked blue to me.
That was the impression I got for sure. Which, if you don't know, the 501st is like Anakin Skywalker's personal kind of division of the clone troopers that he led, and then they became kind of Lord Vader's hand when Anakin turned. So yeah. And
for a second, I thought it might be Captain Rex, but it's not.
Yeah, I wondered if they were gonna do that, but I'm glad they didn't. It's they would have had to have the white beard and stuff, I think, to identify him as Rex.
Well, real quick, Captain Rex is like a ARC trooper in the Clone Wars animated series that was paired with Anakin in the 501st.
Yeah.
And he's a really beloved character that will probably show up in live action at some point, but that was not it.
Yeah, and he did not participate in Order 66.
No, he did not.
He had kind of figured some of that stuff out before it happened and was able to avoid that. So he's a particular case to keep an eye on for sure.
So yeah, Obi-Wan tosses some credits into the helmet and then sadly moves away. You can tell his interaction bothers him, I think, for several different reasons. Number one, clones are just discarded. Right? Like they're not needed anymore. They're on the streets of Daiyu begging for money for a meal. That bothers him, I'm sure, because like, just think about it. They grew people to fight. Right. And then when they were done with them,
just
Whatever.
thrown away like trash. Don't you think Obi-Wan also feels like that a little bit?
Oh yeah, that's a
Like
good point.
himself. These are two forgotten relics of a bygone era at this point. You know, a Jedi and a clone trooper.
Yep.
I think Obi-Wan's just seeing this and being like, this is kind of where I've fallen to as well, you know?
You're right. That is a great point. And I think another thing is it kind of reminds him of Anakin, I'm sure, right? If that is the 501st,
Yeah.
that would remind him of Anakin, kind of putting Anakin again at the forefront of his mind. And we'll get to this later, but
yeah, we will.
Obi-Wan thinks Anakin's dead at this point. That was a
Right.
question going into the series. In this moment, he's still thinking Anakin is dead.
He thought that where he left him on that lava river bank on Mustafar is where he stayed, you know?
Yep. Burning alive.
Yeah. I'm so glad that we're going to get to that's the perfect spot to start this conflict, I think. That's so much more interesting than if he did know.
Yeah.
Because we get to see him wrestle in real time that, like, with both, this villain is still out there in the galaxy that I watched do all this crazy stuff. And then B, I still have a chance to turn him or to save him or, you know, to correct, you know, my own mistakes. So it's exciting.
It is exciting. And it's like, I don't know, like like you said, from Vader's perspective of like, he's coming after Obi-Wan for vengeance. Like, you left me there to burn and die. And the guilt of like Obi-Wan realizing like, oh my gosh, he didn't die.
No.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Oh no. So Obi-Wan slinks away as he leaves the clone trooper and then almost runs into stormtroopers patrolling the street. What a great transition that was.
Amazing.
Very smart.
Yeah. Deborah Chow is making some great moves as far as the direction.
She really is. So he continues walking until a young girl with pink hair stops Obi-Wan, asking if he wants some spice. She has a wide variety: Kessel Pure, Glitter Stem, and Felucian. Kessel Pure, I guess we saw in Solo. Felucia, we visited in Revenge of the Sith. Interesting. Instead, Obi-Wan says he's seeking information about his missing daughter who was taken and is on this planet. The girl says he will never see her again because no one ever leaves Daiyu. She used to be someone's daughter too. And she gives him some spice for free for his troubles and then leaves. Yikes.
Yeah.
This is a bad place.
That whole interaction is just like, ooh.
Yeah, for a second, I thought this was going to go the route of Attack the Clones, like
you want to go home and rethink your life.
Did not go that way.
No, it's a little more depressing.
Obi-Wan's rethinking his life this time.
Exactly. I mean, that's good. There's poetry in that, putting him on the other side of that interaction. It's almost like
poetry.
It rhymes.
We just came up with that statement for the very first time on this podcast.
No, we did not. Everybody can look up the ring theory for Star Wars, but
it's like poetry. It rhymes. But then a young boy named Jaco, that's what the subtitles said, by the way, approaches after overhearing their conversation. He says, "You having trouble? There's a Jedi. He helps people." And for a second, I was like, oh my gosh, there's so many Jedi just out and about, like in the series. Like, what is going on here?
You get a Jedi, and you get a Jedi, and you get a Jedi.
It's like, is this Nari's friend? What's going on here? They're just like out in the open. But Jaco says he can take Obi-Wan to him, but for the right price. And then that's kind of when I start to get like, okay, that doesn't sound very Jedi-like, right?
Yeah, seems like something is afoot.
Yeah. So we cut to a door opening and a hooded Jedi-looking figure with a lightsaber on his belt leading a mother and her son into a room. The supposed Jedi promises he won't let anything happen to them, that they're safe. They sit at a table and the man removes his hood dramatically. I love this whole sequence.
Yes, and it's Kumail Nanjiani,
Yes,
and he's perfect.
he really is.
Just I don't know. There's the dramatic irony of the whole situation. We obviously know what's going on, but we get to watch like these people who don't get duped, So there's the humor in that, but just the way it's just perfect. And this would absolutely happen, right? Anytime
for sure.
There's conflict, anytime there's turmoil, like people are going to find ways to like prey on the hopes of the people who are most affected by it,
100%. This is also like we talked about this in our final prediction show a little bit, and Mark called in with a theory that Hondo could be in this series.
Yeah.
Haja is really taking Hondo. Like if you're not familiar with who Hondo Ohnaka is, he's from the Clone Wars and Star Wars Rebels animated series.
Mm-hmm.
And he's a Weequay. He's not human, but this is like Haja fills that same exact role that Hondo has. Like he's very likable, but man, he's a scoundrel.
Yes. Yeah. No, for sure. Perfect character for Star Wars.
It really is. Like I want more of his story immediately because he's like a con man with a heart of gold.
Right. I want to know of all his previous schemes he's been involved in. Like what was the racket before this one?
Yeah. Great archetype for Star Wars. He reaches for a comlink on the table and it rolls over to his hand very dramatically. He begins speaking to the spaceport passenger check. They reply and the man says, "This is a Jedi mind trick. Don't be alarmed. I'm inside your mind." I love it.
I love it that like you can tell he's just heard stories and rumors of what Jedi can do and is basing what he's doing off of that, Because like we're obviously like it doesn't work this way, of course, but it's so good. It's so good.
It is so good. Obviously, this guy isn't a Jedi. He's a con man. He holds his fingers to his head. There's like this fun interplay happening where he's pretending to convince the man on the other side to let them have a safe passage to Corellia.
Yeah.
And then at the end, he says, "I'm now leaving your mind." I love it. And Obi-Wan is like watching in the shadows all this play out.
He's almost chuckling. Like
yeah. Yeah. Like I think he's kind of entertained by it a little bit.
Yeah.
The woman thanks the man named Haja, and he says that the Jedi have to look after their own. So that's interesting because that indicates that her son is showing abilities and he's going to be hunted if he doesn't get off Daiyu. Yeah. So like you see Haja is playing them, but he's also helping them too.
Yeah. I don't know, which is great because it sets up just a character that you can never trust. I don't think we'll ever trust Haja, like
right.
Just because he's like, yeah, he does seem to have ultimately good intentions, like at the end of the day, but he's getting his where he can too, so you never know when he's going to turn or something like that.
Yeah. Then Haja indicates he needs the payment. He kind of motions towards the box that's in front of him. She gives him everything they have. He tells her to forget him. His safety depends on it. And I just love how dramatic he's saying everything. And then Haja orders them to go. He says, "Be safe." And then he walks to the other, he talks to the other person on the line and he says he needs a quick break as Obi-Wan begins to emerge from the shadows. And Obi-Wan says he's looking for a Jedi and Haja is spooked, wondering how he got inside, but quickly Haja's very quick on his feet. Like he's still playing the role when he sees Obi-Wan.
Right.
And Obi-Wan tells him his dilemma. A girl has been kidnapped and he needs his help to find her. And Haja gives a solemn nod and announces that he is Haja Stray, Jedi. Part of me wonders, like, did he grow up like idolizing Jedi, but now he's kind of like playing the role?
It seems like this is how a child would play being a Jedi,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of how I did as a kid.
Yeah, of course.
Like very dramatic.
Right. We all had our favorite stick from outside.
Yeah.
That was the best for lightsaber fights.
Exactly. He says he can help anyone. He just needs some credits. And if he gives him 1,000 extra, he can even show him a few tricks. Obi-Wan, tired of the games, just pulls out a blaster and takes out the magnets on his hands and the remotes in his sleeves.
Yeah.
And this is the part where Obi-Wan's kind of had enough. He says, "You're a bottom feeder, a rat who preys on weakness. But in my experience, the rats know more about the sewers than anyone else." And Haja says, "So judgmental."
He's not going to deny any of that.
Right. I love it.
But you said it kind of harsh.
Yeah. And your point? After Obi-Wan throws his stuff to the floor, he tells Haja that he's going to help him, and immediately Haja agrees, and Obi-Wan's kind of shocked by this.
Right.
And then we cut to a rat scurrying across Daiyu's streets.
Yeah, it's great.
Again, great direction and writing there as Haja explains in a voiceover where he needs to go. And Obi-Wan approaches a spice distributor plant. So like basically there's this like lounge, and he notices that everyone outside is fashionably dressed, but then he notices someone in a blue smock step out of a room, and Obi-Wan follows him down an alley. And you kind of get the sense that he does a Indiana Jones, punch him in the face, steal his clothes type of thing.
Yeah. It's off screen, but that's definitely the impression. I mean, classic Star Wars. You can't have a Star Wars movie without somebody being, or movie or TV show, same thing.
Whatever.
Somebody's got to be disguised at some point.
Yeah. Sneaking into the enemy base. And we cut to a chemistry lab, and Obi-Wan enters with the alien's smock on, and everyone else is dressed the same way. And he makes his way across the lab and then stops at a shelf with a pink powdery substance.
Yep.
And then
Fun Dip. This is the galactic Fun Dip factory.
This is exactly what Fun Dip factories look like in the real world too.
Yeah, it is. I choose to believe that.
Wow. Then with the Force, he causes a glass beaker to explode, and I got the sense that was with the Force, right? Like it didn't just happen on its own.
I think so. Yeah.
So he's starting to use the Force a little here and there, but not fully, just enough to kind of get by.
Yeah, this detail is a little inconsistent with the overall impression I get later. It seems like using the Force is really difficult for him later. Like things that he was doing in the prequels with no problem are now like taking strain and effort. And I think just because he's not as open to the Force, he's been kind of neglecting that aspect of his being for a long time, But so then that was all kind of effortless when he like exploded the thing. So
and also like maybe it's not that hard because just using the Force to turn a knob, whereas like catching a child might be a little more effort. But like maybe it's I got a really embarrassing story to share. Kind of like riding a bike after you haven't ridden a bike in a long time.
Yeah.
So visiting my nieces out west, they wanted to ride bikes. I have not ridden a bike since I was in high school.
But Alex, it's just like riding a bike. You never
turns out that statement's not true. It's not just like riding a bike. Like I got on, I couldn't stay upright. Like I couldn't keep my balance. Like
no.
I had like my 5-year-old nieces making fun of me. They were like riding literally in circles around me, like laughing at me as I tried to stay upright on my bike, and I couldn't do it.
Oh no.
I was so embarrassed.
The shame.
It was like, what the heck is wrong? Like what is going on here?
You know what, Alex, I accept you for who you are, bike riding ability or not.
I choose to believe is like because one of those bikes with the really thin wheels.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's it.
That's what it was.
That's totally it.
Sure. Right? Okay.
It's gotta
Back
be.
to
You're
the
used to like a mountain bike, right? Yeah.
yeah, rugged. Um back to the episode. In the commotion of the glass beaker exploding, Obi-Wan enters through another door and he snoops around until a Zabrak, which is your favorite species in Star Wars.
It's not my favorite species in Star Wars. It's just the one that I think the armorer is.
Which we might find out, by the way,
You
in
think?
season 3 of The Mandalorian.
Hmm.
We'll see. So yeah, Zabrak and another man stop him, and then they get into a fist fight. And we know from the Clone Wars, Obi-Wan is great at fist fighting, especially Mandalorians with Beskar armor on. But this scene shows you he's been out of the fight for a while.
He's a little rusty. He's a little rusty.
In fact, like when he's fighting, he cuts his hand on one of the Zabrak's horns and he's bleeding. But he takes care of the Zabrak and then asks the other man where Leia is. And then we cut to a room where we think Leia is sitting. But when he removes the hood, it's just an old derelict droid.
Yep.
And then 2 of the mercenaries from earlier enter and pin him against the wall as Vect Nakru, which is Flea from
Red Hot Chili Peppers.
That's insane. Enters and he knows he's a Jedi and says he's surprised he fell for it. It was a trap the entire time. And you can see Obi-Wan realize what's happened. You can kind of see the fear set in his eyes. Ewan McGregor does a really good job at looking afraid and looking at like, I just made a huge mistake.
Yeah, for sure.
They take his lightsaber off and I was about to get really upset because it looked like Flea was about to ignite it. I was like, no. Like, let's let that moment be like,
save that. Yeah.
Yeah. Thankfully, he doesn't.
To me, when Obi-Wan lights up his lightsaber, that's going to be the moment where he's fully stepping back into his role as Obi-Wan Kenobi, not Ben Kenobi. You know, it'll be symbolic of that moment. But that's not a requirement or anything. That's just what I would think.
Very much like Kanan from Star Wars Rebels, that moment when he does the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Flea, or Vect, as that's his character name, says, the Inquisitor really figured you out. She'll be here soon. And you can see the fear in his eyes, but he's still concerned about Leia. And Vect taunts him, saying he's bleeding all over his floor. And then sassy Obi-Wan returns with a everybody bleeds before smashing the vial of spice from earlier, and he quickly puts on his respirator as the others inhale and fall to the floor.
Yep. And they're just on a trip.
Now that's they are on a trip. In their favorite rocket ship. Obi-Wan, like that was classic Obi-Wan right there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like that was Clone Wars era Obi-Wan.
I was gonna say, like, particularly in Clone Wars, like versus the prequel movies, that definitely felt like classic Obi-Wan hijinks.
Yeah. So we cut to Reva marching up to a bouncer, ordering him to move, and she passes, getting closer and closer. Obi-Wan makes his way down the corridor, feeling for Leia in the Force, I assume. Like he's just putting his hand to the door. And then he stops at a door and then he fobs the door open and immediately Leia attacks him.
Yeah.
I love that.
Which is great.
That's perfect characterization of Leia.
Yeah. Yeah.
She's going to take it into her own hands.
She's the one that saved Han and Luke from the Death Star.
Exactly.
You know? Like, it's not the other way around. So, like, she's not waiting around to be saved. She's going to come up with her own plan and put it in action,
honestly,
you know?
like, now looking at A New Hope, it kind of, like, the way she's kind of casually waiting for someone to open the door, like, it's because she's experienced this all before. She's just kind of waiting until her opportune time. Yeah, she's like, whatever. So yeah, she attacks him. She's taken the chair in the room apart to make a weapon, which kind of, again, I think exactly. It kind of shows you a little bit of Anakin's influence, even though he's never been around her on her life, you know, like the genetics of that. I thought
We
that
never
was
see
cool.
Luke tinker that much, you know?
Not really. He just
So-
plays with that Skyhopper toy a lot.
Right. So maybe
I mean-
Leia got the tinkering genes.
And Luke the flying genes. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Obi-Wan tries to reassure her, and Obi-Wan says, "Your father sent me. I'm here to help you." And again, it kind of interplays with A New Hope a little bit. But Leia says, "Where's the army?" I love that.
It's a valid question, right? I know that this is like there's a covert nature to everything. Like finding Leia is the biggest trick, you know?
Right.
So like it's more of a one-man job. But like Bale does have considerable resources. And like if his daughter goes missing, like he's got several people in his employ, I'm sure, that could.
Well, that's the thing. It's like it's a quite a pickle that Bell is in, because like to give away those resources might expose the rebellion a little too early than when it's ready.
Right. Well, I'm just thinking like
even Alderaan,
like just like the Alderaan guard or whatever they've got going on, you know?
Yeah, they have no weapons, Mac. They, you know.
I guess that's true. Yeah.
It's a peaceful planet.
It's a peaceful planet.
It is a peaceful planet. So Obi-Wan takes her hand and leads her out, but Leia is still wary of him. Basically, Obi-Wan says, like, what else are you going to do? Like, this is your only choice. You have to follow me. And you can kind of tell, like, she's getting on his nerves a little bit.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
I
yeah.
like that. I like that.
I mean, I'm sure reminding him of Anakin at that age, you know?
See, we need more stories of Obi-Wan and Anakin
when he was like a kid.
Yeah. I think that's right for an animated series. I really do.
Yeah.
That would be a great series. Outside, underneath a neon sign, the door slides open, and both Obi-Wan and Leia are wearing hooded smocks as they sneak out, and Leia mumbles, "This would have been easier with an army." Inside, the mercenaries are high as a kite. They're enjoying a good time when the door opens and Reva scowls angrily. And once they are far enough away near a street vendor, Obi-Wan begins changing out of his smock, and Leia notices his lightsaber. And she asks, "You're a Jedi? It's just you seem kind of old and beat up."
Just saying it like it is. Just no mercy.
And what I want to tell Leia is just wait 10 more years and see what he looks like. He will look even older.
I think this trip with Leia is what's going to be the contributing factor to his rapid aging.
Yeah. So Obi-Wan explains they need to get onto the last transport, and Leia, being much like her father, is impatient to get going and then almost runs into a creature from Sesame Street.
Mm-hmm.
She stands there shocked. It spooks her a little bit, and Obi-Wan explains that she has to listen to him now. Like, you cannot boss me around. You got to listen to me.
Right.
She nods and agrees as she takes his hand. And then coming out of the lounge, Reva emerges to see the Grand Inquisitor, fifth brother, and I believe this designation is the sixth sister.
Yeah.
And Reva explains that she found a link between Obi-Wan and Organa in the archives. And I'm guessing that's the Jedi archives.
It would have to be. I mean, all that's under Imperial control now, which is weird because the Grand Inquisitor, his whole thing was wanting into the Jedi archives. So I guess he's gotten that at this point. Unless,
maybe that's
the source
part
of the tension. Yeah, that could be. If you want all the kind of the background on all of that information, we've got our episode we did just with the history of the Inquisitors and everything. We talk about all that kind of stuff. So maybe check that out if you're interested. But that's something to keep an eye on. Just a little
connections.
Yeah.
Connection. Well, maybe not. We'll see. We'll talk about it when we get to the end.
We'll see.
Because that was the most shocking part of the episode for me. So Reva is explaining to the Grand Inquisitor she's using Leia's bait because there is a connection between them. And the Grand Inquisitor isn't happy about not being informed. And the fifth brother explains that she's trying to gain favor by capturing Kenobi. So she's trying to gain favor with Vader.
Yeah.
Here's something, and I'm gonna go ahead and talk about this. I feel like Vader and the third sister Reva have had conversations before.
Yes.
Right?
I mean, yeah. There's certainly something in the works there. Whether it's just it could be that she just learned about their past history and stuff and just sees it as a way to kind of get to him. But we've talked about how Vader sort of sees the Grand Inquisitor as a rival, as like a threat to his position at the right hand of the Emperor. Could be that there's some games going on where he's intentionally trying to sabotage like the Grand Inquisitor from within the Inquisitorius.
What if Vader has also kind of replaced Ahsoka with Reva in the sense of like, you're kind of feeling that role for me now?
Yeah, like
I'm mentoring you a little bit.
Yeah, but it's all twisted because they're all dark sidey. Maybe that's it. That's a great thought.
See.
Yeah.
We'll see. So the Grand Inquisitor. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say there's a lot there that I'm excited to discover as the show goes on.
She's super interesting.
She's very compelling to me.
Yeah. The Grand Inquisitor says, whatever power you are craving, it will not change what you are. And Reva says, and what is that? And the Grand Inquisitor answers, the least of us. You came to us from the gutter. Your ability gave you station, but all the power in the world can't mask the stench beneath.
Yeah, so that's brutal. It also, so
is she not a Jedi? Was she not a former Jedi at some point? Because most Inquisitors were.
Right. That could be. Like, it could be that she just had natural force abilities. And I mean, she is younger seeming to me than the rest of them. So it could be that maybe she's the most recent addition and they're no longer pulling from the old Jedi pool. Now she's kind of the first edition that's not from that Jedi legacy.
I have a crazy theory that I referenced on our last breakdown that I don't know where this came from, but it popped in my mind. Dex from Attack the Clones, Dex Jexter, the four-armed basilisk alien that has a diner that talks to Obi-Wan about Camino and Camino saber darts, which is a great
best. It's a great sponsor. Great sponsor. He's got one of the great mustaches of Star Wars.
Yeah. For some reason, my mind went to, was Reva like, did she ever work at Dex's? Was she ever around? Maybe she knew Obi-Wan from that, because we also know from the latest Star Wars novel, Star Wars Brotherhood, Dex was actually, so this is interesting. I don't know if you know this, Mac, but Dex was actually an underworld informant and the diner was just a front.
Okay.
And that makes sense now in context of Attack the Clones. Yeah.
Right. But I mean, that's always kind of what I thought was going on, right? He's like a CI type character.
See, well, I never even really thought about it. It's like, why is Obi-Wan going to this diner person getting information? Like,
oh, okay.
Yeah, I didn't even like put that together, but like, so I don't know why my mind went there, but maybe Reva has a connection there. There's just been also a lot of Dex merchandise lately, so I wasn't sure, like, is that going to pop up? I don't know.
All right. Well, that's something to watch.
So maybe she was like almost, so like Dex, for a Game of Thrones comparison, Dex is kind of like Varys, that role. Like he's an informant. He has spot. Like we even know from the Aftermath trilogy, which takes place after Return of the Jedi, Dex is sending kids out to spy on people. Yeah. Well, what if he's always done that? What if Reva was one of them?
Okay.
So maybe that's where my mind was pulling that from, but we'll see. And so like, it's just the talk of the sewer, the gutters. Like, I don't know. It's something to keep in mind.
I also think it's still possible though, that she was one of those children from the opening scene too. And
yes. Oh, for sure.
Something else going on that is contributing to that tension, But I like there's so many different ways it could shape up.
What if we go back to that scene because we know that Grand Inquisitor used to be a Jedi Temple guard.
Yep.
What if he takes Reva out of the Jedi Temple?
Ooh.
And so there's like a connection there too.
Yeah. I don't know. It could
see.
shake out so many different ways. I'm excited to see.
Call us in with your theories about Reva, because I'm interested to see what other people think about her and what her role might be in the past and stuff. Side note, Rupert Friend is doing a phenomenal job as the Grand Inquisitor.
Yeah, for sure. I think his performance is incredible. The overall look and design is still something that, like, even having seen it on screen for a while now, like, not super compelling to me, but it's not distracting from the story in any way.
No.
But his performance itself is great.
Yeah, and if you're not aware, the Grand Inquisitor is in Star Wars Rebels, which takes place 5 years after this. And if you're wondering how is that possible, so are we.
So are we. We'll
get
cross
to
that bridge when we get there.
Yeah.
Oh man.
So back to the action. Reva steps up to him and says, "Maybe that stench is your failure." And the Grand Inquisitor sneers and tells her he will take in Kenobi himself. She's no longer required. He takes her out of the game and turns, leaving her behind. And she lifts her chin, clearly upset. But then she puts out a bounty to the mercenaries across Daiyu. She wants everyone hunting Obi-Wan. All over, the hunt begins as bounty hunters and mercenaries are activated to begin hunting Obi-Wan Kenobi. And Mac, there's a velociraptor that stands up with a rifle to go hunt Obi-Wan, and that terrifies me. The thought of velociraptors with weapons is not good.
Yeah, no. Yeah, Jurassic Park meets Commando or something. It's
not good. Not a good combo for anyone. And then we cut to Obi-Wan peeking out from behind a corner, and he sees people looking at his picture. Everyone is looking for him now. Okay, so they have his picture. Did the Jedi have yearbooks or something? Like, where did that picture come from?
I don't know. It looks like a mugshot.
Right.
I'm like, this is Obi-Wan's driver's license photo.
And we all know he hates flying, so maybe that's why he didn't smile.
Maybe that's it. We solved it. That's it.
Yeah. So at a vendor, Obi-Wan and Leia begin looking for new clothes to hide in, and Leia wants a very sparkly looking coat, but Obi-Wan gives her a little green cape instead. And then she tries on gloves, and Obi-Wan's like, "You don't need that," but she just keeps putting them on. And then he's like, "Okay, well, we'll get the gloves too."
Like, we have to go. I don't have time.
I love that though. Like, it's the little stuff like that that are just incredible.
Yeah.
And Obi-Wan buys the gloves for her, and he says, "Now, if anyone asks, we are farmers from Twal, and you're my daughter." And Leia mumbles, "Granddaughter, maybe." And it was like Carrie Fisher. It was just like a little Carrie Fisher.
The wit, man. It's got to be there. It's perfect. She is perfect. I said this last episode. Whoever did the casting and found her,
phenomenal,
just needs all the awards. Like,
yeah, she's perfectly written and she's played so well. All down the streets, people are looking at Obi-Wan's picture, including the boy from before with Haja. Leia runs up to some food being cooked, and Obi-Wan chastises her not to look, smell, or even touch anything. It kind of reminds me of that scene from The Force Awakens with Han and Finn, like, don't even look at anything.
Yeah.
And as they continue their way through the streets, Leia begins to wonder why Obi-Wan isn't using his lightsaber. And maybe it means he isn't a Jedi. And then Leia then stops in the middle of the street and demands that Obi-Wan make her float because she heard that they can make things float. And I love that because that's a callback to The Last Jedi where, like, Rey says to Luke, they make things float. Like, it's back to that. So that was really cool. And I love how she
elementary understanding of how the Force works and stuff.
She spins around demanding to float, like, in that moment. And then Obi-Wan refuses, and Leia uses it as evidence that he's not a Jedi. And Leia asks what his name even is. And he says, Ben. And she says, that's not a Jedi name.
Adam Driver would have something to say about that, but
well, it's ironic because it ends up he becomes Kylo Ren. So that's nice little touch there. She wants to know why she should trust him when she knows he is hiding something. And again, it goes back to what you speculated on our last breakdown.
Intuition.
That's how the Force manifests through her.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, she just knows things that a 10-year-old should not know, you know?
Right. And that's why Obi-Wan asks, how old are you? And she's like, 10. And they go behind and a proto stall as 3 aliens scan the crowd for them. Meanwhile, the boy Jaco runs into Haja's room and he shows Haja the reward, and Haja decides they need to go get him first, pulling out a blaster. I love like the little interplay between them because Jaco's like, he was right here. Like we had him. And Haja goes, well, that's embarrassing. And pulls out his blaster and they go to get him. And you get the sense of like, they're going also to hunt after him. And I think that's what they're thinking at first. But then once Haja sees what he's doing, it kind of changes his perspective a little bit, right?
Yeah,
maybe.
I don't know. I think his intentions and everything are being left. We're kind of left intentionally, unclear.
I think I know where he's sending them, though. We'll get to that.
Right.
So back on the streets, Obi-Wan leads Leia down an alleyway. Lots of alleyways in this episode.
I'm here for it.
And then a bounty hunter exits. And this, everyone, is Toro Calican's father. Immediately, I just got the Toro Calican sense from him. Like he had the puck in his hand. He had the jacket. He had like a gold necklace on, like a gold necklace like we would wear today.
It's like a chain.
Yeah, like a chain necklace. So he's got his puck displaying Obi-Wan, and Obi-Wan just knocks him out immediately. Like as soon as he steps out into the alleyway, he knocks him out.
Yeah.
And back on the street, the Grand Inquisitor orders the fifth brother to shut the ports down. And he reminds him how important this is. He says, Kenobi is the last ember of a dying age, which kind of gives you, again, that a new hope sense of things a little bit. And then the sixth sister then drags a man up to the Grand Inquisitor and shows him the bounty that's been put on Kenobi. And the Grand Inquisitor says Reva's name like a curse. And then we cut to her scanning the city from a rooftop. Down in the alley, Leia strolls the alley and then sits down. She takes out Lola, the droid, and Obi-Wan says that there should be no noise from that. And Leia explains that it's hurt, and Obi-Wan says, good.
Yeah. I was like, oh, man. I know we're in a hurry and everything, but
yeah, like,
he's like
come
mourning
on,
the loss of her pet.
Well, then I think he also realizes maybe that was too strong of a reaction. Yeah. Right. And he's got to be thinking also about how this is Anakin's kid.
Right.
You know, like that's his best friend, his brother. This is her. Like, this is, I don't know, like part of me feels like he'd be like, oh, I need to treat her right. Like I can't talk to her that way. Right. And because he's essentially her uncle. And you can feel that through this entire scene. They did a really good job of displaying that in this scene. And he asks what happened, and she explains, and he tells her that her parents know what's going on and everything will go back to normal by nightfall. But Leia's not super thrilled about that. She says, normal, great. And then Obi-Wan says, now who's hiding something, princess? And she says, you don't have to call me that. I'm just Leia. Yeah. Again, just great writing. Good job, Joby. Way to go.
Nailed the character for sure. This is just every bit Leia as a child.
Yeah. And so they hear a beeping device. I think it's a tracking fob. It's the bounty puck. It's the same sort of sound design as from The Mandalorian. Yeah. And he goes to the bounty hunter he knocked out, Toro Calican's father, and he tries to take it off his wrist, and Leia notices it. And she's confused why there's a picture of him. And then she starts to think he might not be trusted. Like if bounty hunters are after him, maybe I shouldn't trust him. Right.
Yeah.
And Obi-Wan tries to explain, but Leia is backing away from him. She can sense he's hiding something from him. And she said that at the beginning of this, when they got together, like, he's hiding something from me. And then I've realized on the second watch, what is he hiding? Well, the fact that he knows who she really is, right?
Yeah.
She's Anakin and Padme's kid.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's what he's hiding from her. It's like, oh.
Yeah. I mean, don't you think he wants to just sit down and tell her everything about her parents? And
yeah.
Like this is the one thing he probably wants to do, and he can't.
Right. So she doesn't believe Obi-Wan and takes off running through the streets, and Obi-Wan tries running after her. We got all sorts of cool creatures and aliens as she runs through the Daiyu streets until a bounty hunter reaches down for Leia, and Obi-Wan blasts him, and he fights off another one. A lot of action here.
Yeah.
Leia makes her way to another alley and starts to climb up a ladder on the side of the building. And then back in the marketplace, the sixth sister performs a roundup as the fifth brother marches through the streets with stormtroopers behind him. And Leia gets to the very top of the building, running across the building tops as Obi-Wan pursues her. And Leia stops when she sees a velociraptor holding a rifle. And honestly, who would not stop? Like, if you see that, you need to stop. Maybe if you don't move, it can't see you.
Maybe, but it's not a T-Rex either, so
that is true. The raptor shoots at them, and then a gun battle on the rooftops begin. And then we cut to Reva scanning, noticing what's going on. And as the battle continues, Leia continues to run off while like Obi-Wan's trying to fight, but also keep up with her. Right. And Reva falls to the rooftops below to join the hunt. Very Batman-like fall that she has there.
She has a lot of that kind of movement, like when she's doing the parkour moves and stuff later. Like it's a lot of that. It's cool. She looks really just like the way she moves in action is awesome.
For sure. And all the while, Obi-Wan tries to keep up with Leia. And finally, Leia comes to a much bigger gap. And that's one long jump. And then the 4 LOM droid, it's not 4 LOM. It's not him, actually.
But it's the same type.
It's the same type. Joins the fray. And on another rooftop, Haja arrives. And he's just watching. He's just kind of watching what's going on. And Reva parkours across the cityscape as she races after her prey. And then finally, Obi-Wan kills the raptor, but Leia sees that as her chance and she jumps, but it's not far enough. And she grabs onto a cable, her body dangling over the city streets below. Obi-Wan cries out for her, urging her to hang on. And you can see the conflict on Obi-Wan's face as he watches her, and he keeps looking behind him because there's still bounty hunters coming. Yeah. Does he open himself back up to the Force? Does he let it all back in? Leia loses her grip, falls. She calls out for Ben. He reaches out and he strains with effort, stopping her.
Yeah.
And it is really a strain. Like, I was kind of shocked by how hard it was for him.
Yeah, I think that's pointed. You know, I think it's intentional. And he didn't even like pull her back up to him or like put her on the other side or anything like that. He was really only able to just break her fall. I think that's on purpose.
Yeah. Something's just now hitting me though right now. I've always wondered, why did Leia name her child Ben? Now I get it.
This makes sense. I guess I always thought it was just like
to honor him, but she never knew him, but now we know that she did know him.
She did.
That's cool.
Wow.
That is cool. Look at that. Connections.
Does she on the death? I'll have to, I'm excited to finish Obi-Wan and then immediately watch A New Hope.
Yeah.
Because I might throw Rogue One in there just for kicks, but beforehand.
Yeah.
But yeah, to watch this and then watch New Hope and notice the difference in the dynamic now that we have this much of the story, you know?
Well, like her message, her message to Obi-Wan Kenobi is very formal, but when Luke says, "I'm here with Ben Kenobi," she's like, "Ben Kenobi?"
Yeah.
Like she knows him. Like, oh, you good. Like,
right.
We've done this before.
Great.
Yeah. So he reaches out and he strains with effort, stopping her. She gets her wish. She floats softly to the ground, and bystanders watch. And Obi-Wan emerges on the street level, bending down to see if she's all right. And now she knows he is actually a Jedi. He is who he said he was. And we cut back to the spaceport, and they announce all incoming and outgoing travel is canceled. And the Inquisitors arrive with stormtroopers in tow. And Leia asks who they are. And Obi-Wan explains that they were once Jedi, but now they work for the Empire hunting down the Jedi. And from behind, the droid is about to sneak up on them, but before it can do anything, Haja takes it out.
Yeah.
Obi-Wan tries to reason with him, but it seems that Haja has a change of heart. Maybe, maybe not. We'll see.
Yeah, it's open. There could be many different twists and turns. I'm almost getting kind of a DJ type read from him, you know.
Yeah, DJ from The Last Jedi. Yeah, kind of like how Lando was at first. We weren't sure if we could trust him, but then he turned out to be someone we could trust. Okay, I like that. Then Haja explains exactly what they need to do. He's lined up for them a ride on a cargo transport that's fully automated, so they won't be looking for him there because nobody's actually flying it. And Obi-Wan asks, "What are you saying?" It says, then Haja replies, "It goes to Mapazo. They'll be waiting. They'll be waiting."
Yeah.
So my theory is Haja is working for an early version of the Rebel Alliance.
I think that's a great idea. I mean, we know that like in the early days, especially, things were kind of sketchy and stuff. You know, like the rebellion was cobbled together from a lot of different places.
Yeah.
At this point, there would be rebel cells. So not really even like a big unified effort, but just like little pockets of rebel cells around. And so, yeah, I mean that he could definitely be working for something like that.
I feel like he is. I trust him right now, and I hope that my trust isn't broken. I think I trust him because I like him so much.
Right.
I like his character so much. I don't want him to be bad.
Yeah. I'm intentionally trying to protect myself from heartbreak later down the line.
Well, Obi-Wan's a lot like you because he's not convinced because he's a criminal. And Haja says, "Look, have I made a few bad decisions? Sure. Do I feel bad about it? Sometimes. Do I like credits? Yeah. So much stuff you can buy with credits."
So true.
That's what you do with them.
Yep.
Obi-Wan interrupts him, and Haja is impressed he remembers his name. Haja wants to make amends, and he gives them a sabacc card device and tells him to go to those coordinates. They'll help him from there. And then Haja promises to give them as much time as he can as he lifts the hood over his head, pulls out his blaster, and goes to buy them time. Back in the streets, the Grand Inquisitor questions the lead kidnapper, wanting to know where Kenobi is as his lightsaber spins.
Yep.
And then we cut away as Flea seemingly dies.
Oh, yeah. No, he was just going to press that lightsaber closer and closer until,
Yeah. Reva leaps across the building and parkours down to the alleyways, and Haja is waiting with his blaster and announces himself as a Jedi. Pretty brave if he is. Like that's the thing. Like, I just don't understand. Like, Haja, my dude, you could easily die here.
Yeah, like it would have been the probable outcome.
Yeah.
So I mean, there is maybe a selflessness there, unless he's in on a
connection. Yeah.
So there, there's always the door is open for that kind of thing.
Well, you do get the sense she knows he's being a dummy. Like,
yeah.
And Haja's disappointed that he's not a Jedi, but knows he's seen, like, so she's disappointed that he's not a Jedi, but she knows that he's seen Obi-Wan. And so she force pushes him against the wall and pulls a Kylo Ren on him, taking the memory out of his head.
Yeah, I think that surprised me because I previously had kind of thought of the Inquisitors as having less access to Force abilities and stuff like that. Like that's something I would view as kind of a more advanced thing. But I know she's also kind of they've talked about her ability before.
Well, maybe we might be onto something with the Vader mentorship thing going on.
Maybe he's sliding her some information on the side, some secret training.
Maybe he's got a secret apprentice, and it's her.
That would be a very cool angle.
Yeah, that would be cool. That would
be cool. If he was doing the thing that Count Dooku was doing with Asajj.
Exactly.
Like,
which is a very Sith thing to do.
Very Sith thing to do.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah. So we cut to the cargo port that Obi-Wan and Leia enter. Leia wonders aloud why it's so hard for him to have friends, and then orders him to follow her. And Obi-Wan stands there just watching her with a knowing look, and Leia asks, "What now?" And he says, "Nothing. You just remind me of someone. She was fearless too, and stubborn." And she says, "I'm not stubborn." And Obi-Wan laughs and says, "Yes, you are." And Leia asks, "Was your friend a Jedi too?" And he stops and turns and he says, "No, she was a leader. She died a long time ago." So he's obviously talking about Padme.
Padme, for sure.
Her mom.
Yeah.
Though I feel like this series is like putting, like, Luke is more like Padme and Leia is more like Anakin.
I think that too.
Yeah.
Luke's got more of the, I don't know. We don't have a ton of Luke as a kid yet. So
there's a gentleness to Luke that Leia does not have.
Right. But Leia has the fire and the passion and the free spirit like Anakin has.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So Leia says that she's sorry, and Obi-Wan nods and he says, "Me too."
And they approach a couple different things, because he's saying, "Yeah, I'm sorry because I lost my friend, but you lost your mother."
Yeah, and it like he blames himself though.
Right.
Like he's blaming himself for that. So that's got to be hard for him to even like talk about with her. Yeah. So they approach the cargo loading area, and then they hear something behind them, and it's Reva. And she ignites her saber and calls out for him, and he hides Leia, and he gives her the chip, ordering her to go without him if he's not back in time. And she runs towards the ship as he turns to see a red light coming, and he takes out his own saber, but he doesn't ignite it. He just kind of looks at it almost with like fear of like, oh my gosh, am I going to have to use this thing? Like he doesn't want to. Leia makes it to the transport. She enters the code cylinder, powering up the ship. Reva is taunting Obi-Wan as she stalks through the crates, and she says, "You don't have to worry. You're not going to die today. I'm just going to take you to him. Lord Vader will be pleased."
Yep. And that's a bomb for Obi-Wan.
And it's a bomb for us. But like, I know there's people out there who are like, well, how did Obi-Wan not hear about Darth Vader all 10 years? Now, we don't know how open Darth Vader is in the Empire.
I mean, actually, some of the canon books and stuff talk about people within the Empire like learning of Vader for the first time,
Right.
Like, I don't think he's not this just like public face, you know? Like,
not
he
yet.
is
Maybe he becomes one later, but not yet.
Yeah. In this time period, I think he's still kind of this like secret weapon of the Emperor. He only goes out to do the most challenging tasks.
Yeah. So Obi-Wan shifts his posture. His face is as if he's seen a ghost. He doesn't know. Reva says, "You didn't know. He's alive, Obi-Wan. Anakin Skywalker is alive."
Yeah.
How does she know his name?
That's another level there, because like pretty much only the Emperor knows his name. He's Lord Vader to everybody else. They've intentionally tried to keep his past quiet and a secret,
Right.
So she knows his name. that means either she just has a closer relationship than it may be seemingly it seemed on the surface at first with Vader, like we were kind of talking about, that mentor-mentee kind of relationship, or she knew him before,
right,
in some kind of context. So
which goes back to the beginning of the very first episode.
If she was one of those children that were escaping in Order 66, she would have been aware of Anakin, and maybe even she might have seen him do something because he was there
to her friends.
I'm wondering if we're going to get more of that scene where Anakin specifically finds Reva and then like sets her aside for later during Order 66.
Dang.
That'd be crazy.
That would be crazy.
I don't know. It's all pretty interesting to me.
Yeah. And so she goes on to say, and he's been looking for you for a long time, and I will be the one to deliver you to him. And then she begins to throw some crates with the Force near Obi-Wan, but then the Grand Inquisitor yells out, "Third sister, I can stand the reek of your ambition no longer." So like clearly the Grand Inquisitor is threatened by like how ambitious she is.
Yeah.
She tries to reason with him, but the Grand Inquisitor doesn't want her to capture him. I think he's the one that wants to do it, or let Vader do it.
Yeah.
He orders her to move aside. He says, "Watch and learn," he says as he lifts his hand, but then she stabs him in the stomach, Mac.
Yes! What? So, as we've mentioned, this presents a problem, right? So, I think the most likely scenario is that he's not actually dead. Because
okay, let's explain why this is a problem again.
Yeah, so in Star Wars Rebels, the Grand Inquisitor is the main antagonist for the first season, which happens
5 years after this.
Yeah, so it'd be 5 years after this show. He dies. Like, we know how spoilers for Rebels, but like we know how he dies, and this ain't it. So
either he's alive,
which is I think is the most likely, just knowing what we know.
He gets a Finnick robo tummy.
Yeah, something like that, or he just like the dark side. He's too angry to die, kind of thing, like Maul or whatever. But what if it's not?
You had jokingly said a few episodes ago in preparation for this of like, what if the reason he doesn't look the same is because he's not the same?
It could be. I'm like,
maybe he's got a twin. Or a clone.
Or it's interesting. I don't know. We'll see.
I think he's still alive.
I think that's like 99% going to be the outcome. But I was shocked. I think it's a testament to this show that we're even like talking about it, because I bought it immediately. I was like, oh, he's done. Like, I think just because I'm invested and along for the ride.
He looked dead. Just laying there. He looked dead. But also, like, I think it's a wonderful job. Like, again, I can't praise the writing enough on this show to get him out of the way so Reva can have the spotlight.
Absolutely. We've already got his main story, I think. I think we've seen the crowning achievements of his career. Let's have this Reva story. Let's focus in on that. I think it's perfect.
Yeah. So he gasps, he falls to the ground, and she says, "Who's in the gutter now?" Dang. Obi-Wan uses this as a chance to run away to the ship, and Leia activates the ship, and Obi-Wan gets on. Reva chases after the lifting transport, and she says, "We will find you. We will destroy you," she yells. In the transport, Obi-Wan is devastated. He has this gutted look on his face. Leia notices, but Obi-Wan doesn't respond as tears well in his eyes, and he whispers, "Anakin."
Yeah.
And then we hard cut to Anakin in the Bacta tank. Bacta. I'm going to say it both ways. As he opens his red-rimmed eyes, and we hear the iconic breathing. And then we pull out and cut to black. End of episode.
Boom. Man.
Darth Vader in episode 2.
Yeah. What a way to go out. Yeah, this episode was amazing. I'm glad we had it to just watch directly after the other one. I think it would have been fine if we had to wait a week,
Yeah.
you know. I think it would have been totally fine. That first episode was super solid, super strong on its own and everything, but this really is setting up the conflicts. You're getting to see a little bit of the machinations behind the scenes of the characters that we're following. And I mean, it's addressing pretty much everything we have previously discussed it needing to address, you know?
Right.
So
Right.
just incredible, super engaging. I'm just along for the ride.
I'm trying not to compare it to The Mandalorian and the Book of Boba Fett, because I feel like this is really different than those two things. Obviously, it's telling a different type of story, but also this is a different type of event for us as Star Wars fans, because we are getting, this really feels like Revenge of the Sith Part 2.
It does.
Right?
It does. This is, I mean, we're dealing with the biggest names in the franchise, like
Right.
Obi-Wan Kenobi, Luke Skywalker, Leia, like
Darth Vader.
Darth Vader.
Yeah.
So like the stakes are just super high. If we're like the toys that we've got out of the toy box for this, you know, play session are the most expensive toys in the box. You know, this is all out. Yeah, it just feels real special.
Dude, I can't wait to see what happens on Part 3.
I know. I mean,
which is Wednesday.
Yeah, we don't have to wait super long. Just real quick, where do you kind of think we're heading? I mean, I think I don't think we're going to be back on Alderaan immediately. I think maybe it's going to take a little bit to get back there. I think we're going to be on the run for a second.
I think they'll meet up with Haja's friends, which I think is the Rebel Alliance.
Yeah.
I do think that, because remember the concept art we saw. You remember that? There was some speeders that look like the speeders from The Empire Strikes Back, like snow speeders.
And we know that those were modified for the cold. So that was not the original intent.
Right. So like, to me, that kind of screamed, oh, but maybe that's the Rebels. So I think Obi-Wan, here's what I think is happening. I think Haja is thinking, if we can get a Jedi in the Rebel Alliance, we're golden.
We have a chance.
Right? Yeah. We've got a chance. And so he's sending them to maybe Obi-Wan kind of gets involved, gets in that sort of fight. But that's not what Obi-Wan needs. But Leia does see everything going on, and she's like, I do want to be a part of this.
Okay. Yeah. I love that.
So I think that's where Part 3 is going.
Cool. Yeah. In this episode,
we'll get like, Vader.
You think he's gonna show up next episode?
Yeah, you can't tease him at the end of this episode and he not show up in the next one.
They've done it more than that before. Like, I mean, think about like Boba Fett showing up in Mandalorian season 1, just and then we didn't see him for forever. So you know they've done it before, but it could happen next episode for sure. I definitely think by the 4th episode we'll be getting some Vader action.
What are some thoughts? Where do you think it's going?
I mean, I just know that like in this episode, he was like, "We'll be back on Alderaan by the morning." You know, that ain't happening. that's
a classic Mandalorian thing. Yeah. That's not what's going to happen.
Right. That's my only really, way forward. I think my expectations have already been subverted several times during this show. So I'm just like along for the ride. Like whatever's next, give it to me. Here for it.
Dude, this is so much fun. This has been so much fun. I had planned on doing some initial reactions on the YouTube for this morning, but like because it was 2, I felt like this breakdown was more important than that. But if you are a fan of the podcast and maybe you don't watch the YouTube, number one, you should check out the YouTube for the contest we're doing. You'll see an image pop up sometime during the YouTube stream, and there is Arabesh that you can translate. And each week you will get a coded message, and you put it all together and then email mandalorianwatch@gmail.com with the finished message, and you will be entered into the drawing for a Hello There shirt and then a mystery gift from Obi Wednesdays that they're doing on StarWars.com.
Yeah. Well, we've got the details of that contest and everything in writing somewhere, right? Twitter.
Yeah.
So check Twitter if you need any, details on that.
But yeah, so definitely check it out. But also, like, I want to start doing some like initial thoughts and reactions before the breakdown, so that way you guys should subscribe to the YouTube and check out some other things. I did a reaction to the Andor trailer that came out.
Yep.
I gave some initial thoughts and theories on that as well. And if any breaking Mandalorian news comes out tomorrow at Star Wars Celebration, I might do something. We'll see. But definitely subscribe to YouTube and your podcast app of choice. And if you can't support us on the Patreon, giving us a 5-star review and telling other people about the podcast, because it goes such a long way. I mean, it helps us out so much. So we really appreciate that.
It would mean the world to us. Yep. Cool. We'll look for a Hello There hotline episode hitting your feeds in the next little bit sometime. And then we'll be back on Wednesday with another breakdown. So
that's right.
Lots more Obi-Wan Kenobi coming your way. Lots more Children of the Watch. But until then, keep the watch.